and
Oh,
for the
yeah.
streaming to the public, so.
All right, and we have microphones up and down the table, so we don't need to turn them on or off.
Does anybody have an extra pen?
There's one right here.
Okay. Are we recording yet?
We are.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just express my appreciation to the people who are here today, especially the volunteers. You didn't have to do this. You volunteered to do it. One or two of you had your arms twisted a little bit, I think. But you acquiesced gracefully. I really think that this is an important project, and the decisions that will come out of this will be much better informed by virtue of the fact that we had this subcommittee. We'll be able to take the recommendations that we make or the planning staff makes in conjunction with us, take it back to the entire board and move it on to the Board of County Commissioners with a high degree of confidence that it's as good a plan as we could come up with. And, you know, all of us are much better informed by virtue of having taken a bus tour and having the presentations by just virtually every stakeholder you can imagine, including the city of DeSoto, but also including Parks and Rec and wastewater and all of the other people who've testified to us. So just in short, I want to thank you for doing it, and we appreciate it. And it's something that maybe 10, 15, or should any of us live so long, 25 years from now, we'll look back and say, that was all right.
25 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm not holding out for that.
105.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell the story to my children so they can appreciate it. All right. That's all I've got to say, Jay.
Just to echo, I appreciate everyone being here. I know this is a significant amount of time working through some of the issues. I appreciate staff putting together the work they've done and getting the stakeholders together. The three options that we have available for you that we're going to be presenting this afternoon. Also, a special shout out to Zoe, be part of this process as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Diane.
Yeah, thanks. Not sure that we need to do introductions, but we can if anyone. We're kind of down to our core group, just the 5
I think we're probably
planning
good.
commission members and staff. So
Yeah.
we kind of decided for this meeting that we didn't really need those additional county departments, although we definitely appreciated all of them coming and
Yeah.
presenting and providing information. That was really good. So I think today's focus is to talk about the options and hopefully get some final recommendations. Subcommittee can send. So we thought just the smaller group would be fine for that. So I think if you look down your agenda, I think Karen's going to give a update on Water District 7. They were supposed to come at the last meeting, but then when we canceled, we just had a quick meeting with them, got an update. So Karen.
So this is, if you're interested, I have the Water 7 location and facilities map. That
Should it be the last one?
or perhaps second to the last one. And if you look at on the screen, that's what it looks like. I went ahead and gave you this one. Some of you within the area might be kind of interested in, and also it's hard to read up on that water line sizes, so I thought it might be good to have it. But we were going, like Diane said, gonna have Water 7 here, but, we met with them and talked with them, and there's two main projects, that they kind of would like to have us highlight. The first is a $4 million project. It's between, I plan to have the cursor here. Michelle, if you could kind of circle the area between, Sunflower and, the city of Olathe. It's basically between, it's about Spoon Creek, on the west side, and then K10, and, it's about 143rd Street, kind of that area. They invested, $4 million. They are almost complete putting in all their pipeline, that they went through and, back, decades ago when they started as a water district, their only goal was just to get water to people's houses. They didn't have a lot of damaged line, not a lot of pressure. So they upgraded a lot of those lines, and you can see now that the lines are, more of like the 6-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch. And they are almost done with that. And the very last part of their project is to put in a water tower, on Hill Creek Park property. So I'm just gonna go up here. I'm kind of,
Where are they gonna do that?
Huh?
Set in the city?
this is Water 7. This is the Water 7 project. So this grayed out portion, this is, Sunflower, former Sunflower Army, and here's Spoon and green. Here's 143rd Street. So they treat the area, spent significant
Yeah, okay.
time and effort to improve that system. And then
Western Park.
then also Hill Creek Park going to put they're getting ready to approach the county to go through that public. And then the other project that they want to do, that they're looking into, and they're talking with the city of DeSoto right now, is to take their line, send it over to Edgerton, some route, they don't know. It's on the 43rd, it's going portion of the form. Thing going up Edgerton, for the purpose of reaching the Florence projects, and the Flint project is, right here, kind of in that triangle. This is taking the, like where that one is,
Oh, right there.
it's below, it's on the other, side. Yeah, there.
Lines.
Yeah, so I think that's Flint, I'm a little bit Flint, and so what they're wanting to do is provide some redundancy to the Flint project. They already have water coming in. And it's the economics of that, it's the Flint's need, that would be what would spur this project. But there's some obvious benefits to the area that's west of the Amman plant, between the Amman plant and Camden. So those are kind of in this area, kind of the two things that the water district number.
And would Water 7 be providing the water for the new plant?
For the, you mean, for Flint or for,
For Panasonic?
remember what they said?
I do not.
I do not
I do
remember.
not remember.
Yeah.
That's the city of DeSoto. I thought they have their own water.
Oh, you know what? They have like that whole service plan.
Yeah.
I think we have
When,
that.
They're bringing in a new,
when
have a new
when I was
sanitary
on a
pump
water
station.
6A before they merged with 6. we had a partnership with them to get water from DeSoto. So, and those lines kind of ended up at the Sunflower. So I imagine it's going to be under
I think that's right.
their facility. And, you know, they're getting really water from Seven now also, because they're looped into that. So
Just to confirm, yeah, that's what I've heard too, that.
I think that's totally.
Could you?
I have a Karen question for you. That water tower you mentioned that they're getting, when are they planning on doing that? That imminent, like in a year
Imminent.
sometime?
Bill Moffman talked as. I mean, their hope is within.
Wow, okay.
We'll see what, things are. So they're actively.
Okay.
And so this is provided. For the legend. These are pending. Doing that. That's pretty, so it wasn't really a whole lot of new, kind of interesting. Are there any more questions?
Thanks. So that kind of wraps up, just kind of the information we've been gathering from infrastructure. All that. So really kind of the main goal of this meeting then is to talk about our three policy areas of our company, and then back up there with some options that take a look at the stats. So I'll kind of walk through those. So the first thing that I wanted to walk through real quickly is our rural policy areas. So if you see the brochure, it's that one. So if you turn on the back page, it's kind of also a description of our rural policy areas, as well as they have a copy of the PowerPoint. No, but yeah. So there's a packet. Mike, do you want to hold that up just so people can see? So it's that, it's that packet, the back page. And so that part is directly out of our. And so we have three policy areas as part of our plan. One is the rural traditional policy area. The second is the rural policy area. And the third is the urban policy area. And so the rural, not really going to focus on rural traditional, but it's really just kind of maintaining rural character, with cultural production. And it's got kind of more of a 3-year plus.
I had a question about the urban fringe policy. Bullet point of density 2 acres dwelling unit if adequate infrastructure is available. What is defined as adequate?
So when we say that, we mean the minimum infrastructure requirements that we require as part of our zoning and subdivision.
I understand that, but is it like a
So like
sliding
water-
scale or if there's 20 homes going in, it's 2 homes that are gonna be, I mean, is it?
It's based on the zoning, the density.
And a perfect example is the water line map that we just looked at. You'll notice that the water lines don't go everywhere. And so adequate infrastructure. You can do it if you have a water line that has adequate flow to fight fires. If you have,
Paved roads.
safe road, yeah.
Actually, my question was along the water line was my question. I don't know if it was if people wanted to have a cistern and bring their own water, if they don't have access to a water line.
And that's
Forward.
that is an excellent question, and that is the difference between the rural policy area and the urban. Urban plan, you can provide, you must provide all of those, more urban things like the water line and the roads. If you want to rezone to our zoning district is RN2, that allows to.
Okay.
And so, but the rural policy area, we have the decision to allow people to have 10-acre lots if they, they just need a gravel road, they can turn or a well. And then the main restriction for those lots is you have enough frontage onto the arterial road for Carnet.
Thank you.
That help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of, this conversation's kind of a good segue into kind of the differences between that rural policy area and the urban fringe policy area. And I think Karen described that well. So the rural policy area is just still maintaining the rural character, agricultural uses. But that area is unlikely to be served by extensive road improvements or sewers within the next years. And then that use and density is that 10 acres per dwelling unit. But that time frame's 20 years. And then when you get to the urban fringe policy area, that is more focused on anticipated, urban expansion, city growth, but within a 10-year time frame. And then that's also where we coordinate with adjacent cities on their area and what's happening along that fringe. And then to also just kind of provide for orderly, growth in that area that protects the environment. And again, that time frame and the density, like Karen mentioned, is if there's available, then you can go down to that 2-acre per dwelling unit density. And that 2 acres, part of that 2 acres is that's also the minimum for a septic system.
Got a question. So the map that's dated 27-23. And the coloring on that. That shows what it is today. Is that right?
No.
No.
Case
No.
of thoughts.
No. So
That's what it is before. And if any changes are.
So we're moving,
No.
so we're
Yeah.
moving to this and we're gonna explain. Here.
Sorry.
So, that's okay. I just wanted to give a kind of a brief, just reminder what our policy areas are, because that's kind of a good base for our discussion for these options. So Jim, you're right. So if we can go to that option 1 map. Have copies at your desk also. It's stapled, so the front is kind of zoomed in version. And then the second page, if you're looking at option 1, then the second page is showing that whole policy area, the whole map, just to, so that you have a sense of kind of what it's gonna be. So that option 1 is not the current map. And we've got that up here too, if you want.
Yeah.
But So it's option one. Roll down.
So if you look at the board up front, that is what's currently adopted by the county. And you'll notice in the sunflower area, it's just a big pink area. And that's basically saying, go look at the sunflower area. So that's kind of the purpose of this subcommittee is, what are we gonna do about that area now? And
Right.
so this option one that we're suggesting is, one thing is we could, everything that's in pink, we could just designate as the rural policy area. And that would mean that if somebody wanted to do an application, they could 10-acre zoning. And then we have a second option that puts some urban fringe.
So if you'll remember, yeah, so those are kind of the discussions that we've had through these last meetings. So, so you should also have this map in with your drawings. I think we've given you copies of that before. So what this map shows is, you know, all the gray area is what DeSoto has annexed, so no longer under our jurisdiction. But then the remaining area kind of around, kind of a big U around the annexed area, that those different colors are what's remaining land out in the county, but what was designated as a particular use in the sunflower plan. And so that's really the area that we're focusing on, is this the kind of colored area here that's still left out in the county. And so what we're really talking about is then this pink area. So one option is instead of keeping with the plan, that we dissolve the sunflower plan. I think you guys talked about that last time. Seem to be in agreement with that. So then option one is to replace this county land area just with our rural policy area, which is that 10-acre minimum, maintaining the rural character. And so that the maps that you had, that's what it would look like. That map's also up here. So really, essentially, it's replacing all of this area around the annexed area with rural policy area. And the minimum, have a lot of that out in the county. So that's option one.
I've got a quick one. As you go through this, my concern has always been if we take an area that's rural, I'm gonna use the wrong term, and has all of its implications of being rural, making changes to that, so that if I lived out here and we change something that is gonna change what I can do around to protect those things. That's the, when I look at this, that's what I want to try to figure out. Is if we change designation, does it affect the rural people out there? Because we're sitting here, you know, 7 months ago, when we had public hearings, this is never going to change out there for the next 20 years. And 6 months later, got that. So I don't want to.
When you say protect,
Uh,
when you say protect the farmers and rural people, what do you mean?
What I mean is I don't want the regulations that they have do something far as,
Promote, develop,
yeah, you know.
higher density.
Because I'll give a good example, because we say something and we change something to a different category, that it changes their setbacks on the gravel road. That,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that kind of.
So right now.
It's hard for me to
for-
it's, so remember, what we're talking about is updating the comprehensive plan. We are not changing anybody's zoning district as part of this plan. Nobody's zoning. And so it's just, we're just the plan. And that's really just a guide. For when somebody comes in, you know, for an application. That's, you know, kind of one of the points that we look at. So,
In the 10 acres and larger rule won't change. With regard to the fact that we don't regulate
And,
basically.
and we
because
have
it's a
the
different
perfect,
category.
we have
Yes,
the perfect example up here. If you look behind Diane, that's our zoning map. You'll see a sea of green around the farmer ammunition up
Right.
there. That's the zoning. It's all RUR rural district. And you're, if you meet all of the other requirements, come in with a plat and you can have the 10-acre lots. And so this map over here is the future land use map. So the zoning map that Diane's looking at, that's what you can do right now. That's what you can do by right. And then the map up on the screen, those are future land use uses. And that's how we want to guide the development.
when we're looking at applications.
Yeah, when we evaluate development requests. And I'd like to make a comment that kind of combines what Jim was saying and something I've heard Roger say, and talking about density. So right now, in the plan that we have adopted now, in the pink, if you boil it down, what it essentially is kind of a variation of the urban policy. And so right now, kind of what we have is a huge amount of urban policy that wraps around the Army ammunition. Allows like 2 and 3 acres. Now, it kind of, that much urban policy area, that much what we consider to be high densities, but what cities consider to be low density zoning is actually not a very good position for either the city or the county to be. Because the city is wanting to have density. They want higher density. And they need the higher density to just fill their needs for housing. And we don't want this much, 2 and 3 acre zoning. It's, sections upon sections of that because of our budget. We don't have the budget to maintain those local roads and provide all those. And also, that much urban fringe, it speaks to your concern about kind of maintaining that rural character. So going to our rural policy area, that provides kind of protection for both the county and the city. Because the county, from some of the detrimental effects of higher density. So what this future land use policy area of the rural is saying, continue with the densities allowed with the underlying zoning that's RUR.
Which is
Continue with
rural
what
zoning
these people
district.
have now. And so it's not unexpected. I mean, it preserves the rural. This is the best way we have of preserving rural character, but it's the best that we can do to the larger parcels. So when
And it
the
kind of
cities,
matches up with the current zoning.
When it comes to the public information meeting that'll be down the road, I think the vast majority of people who have an interest in this area are going to want to hear just what you have said. And I think it will allay a lot of their concerns, because you've got this huge plant coming in and thousands of commuters every day and lots of new housing and that sort of thing. And what are the rural people concerned about? They don't want their lifestyle changed,
Yep.
and it's not that the county could do anything about this, but I'll give you the exact opposite example. I have a friend who lives on Waverly Road in Edgerton. And he has 40 acres. He has a beautiful house right in the middle of it. And around him, he's surrounded by warehouses. And he's also on a gravel road that is taking dozens of truck trips every day that are sending dust, because he lives on the east side, it's sending dust on his way. And I just feel so bad for the guy, because that through government action and zoning changes over which he had no control, we all hear people say, well, that's going to hurt my property value. You do this or do that. And most of the time, that's not true. In this case, it really is true. I think his property is essentially, at least as a residential property, has become unsellable.
So,
So this option is kind of the status quo option.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are going to want to hear.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the public.
And you could talk about DeSoto.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. Yep. So that's option one. And then, so there's option two, which is, just kind of another way to look at things, which is, so again, this isn't the current map, but what we've done, and you've got paper copies too. What we've done is
I got
have
it.
a little bit of urban fringe up there, just on outside of 95th Street, west of Hill Creek Road, and then a little bit more farther south, west of Waverly Road, yeah, just where Michelle's arrow is there, yep. So that would be, that kind of 2 acre minimum if there's infrastructure. And part of the reason, that we just kind of gave this as an additional option to look at is just kind of looking at kind of what the density and lot sizes were out there existing at the time. So there's some smaller lots in that area. And so that's the second option. And then the rest is remaining that rural policy area along here to the south, and then, kind of on the. So really the only difference with this option two is this urban fringe that we're showing around 95th and Waverly.
do you have any strong feelings on one or the other?
So, yeah, so we took these two options. We went and met with the city of DeSoto staff. And met with them for about an hour, talked about their development plan, their future. And they were very, very clear. They preferred option one, is the rural policy area. And I think the main reason they prefer just kind of everything rural policy area, is just so it's kind of, easier for them to go in if somebody annexes and wants to do a dense development. It's, lack of a better word, it's a little bit more of a blank slate for them. The infrastructure, street improvements. So then the idea would be if somebody's wanting to do a very dense development, that we're gonna annex into the city and do that development with the city and utilize their infrastructure.
Diane, option one is really ensures the slowest growth, right? Kind of slows things down a little bit. I guess that's kind of what,
Yeah, that's
Right.
a very good way to
And the planner, the Johnson County planner, that meeting. Also thinking that. Now,
So when Jim, you were asking about what Matt's recommendation is. Staff recommendation is to dissolve that area plan, like the subcommittee talked about. And then have that remaining county. That rural policy area, that option one, that's kind of what staff is recommending. And then, or, you know, if there can be an option three, if the subcommittee has some other option that we want to. So, I may stop there. So those are kind of the options. And I think at this point, you know, we just kind of wanted to have a discussion with the subcommittee about what you think about these options, which one you prefer. And, you know, that would be what we ultimately up to the full commission for their discussion. And we'll talk about that piece, but we can piece a little bit. Just get some thoughts here.
Question, we talk somewhat about the urban fringe area when we're at this table. What's the conversation like at the city planning staff level for the urban fringe area? They have a colored ink formula that they apply to that urban fringe area, and how far in agreement or disagreement is that to what we think we want?
So there's a question, as I understand, Roger, really, what is the city's future land use plan for that area?
Yeah, for the fringe area, not the already incorporated area,
It
but
may, is that a part of the
Yeah.
packet?
it is
Map here.
It's- the last map, but. And it's also, we can put that up on the screen too. So,
It looks like they have a combination of, in that area that we were looking at in 95th and east of Kill Creek is kind of a combination of commercial, industrial and residential. So as an example, yeah, they have a different view for what that will be. And that's okay, because if that does get annexed, which at some point it will be, that part of that property in that area south of 95th will be annexed. Yeah, that's their vision. And so as Diane was saying, really and I think Karen mentioned it too, you know, when we met with the city staff, urban fringe could work, but it's really, they may have even different visions of that at a higher density. If it were to be urban fringe, it might limit the type of density and type of development that they would envision in that area. So could conflict. But yeah, the city does have a future land for that area. So
That's the
their
only-
future growth area.
that little corner up there's the only place we brush up against city thoughts. We don't get far enough down to Edgerton and Gardner intersect with that. So we're only talking about that one little spot up there. Probably.
Pretty
with
much,
this
yeah.
plan.
For a potential for urban fringe, yeah.
Did they give you any kind of time frame that the expressway going out of there, Dan? Did they even, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, that's seems like to me, that's gonna be the sooner rather.
well, the city manager talked a little bit about it. They have plans for that. They call it the Astra Enterprise Park where Panasonic is going in. That overall development for the old former Sunflower property. They do envision a north-south arterial road going through there. They did not say exactly where or when it would. They just say that they are definitely planning around that, and they are planning the Panasonic development around a future roadway going through there. No timeline on when.
Because the first phase of that,
Yes.
They have done, they've asked, I think KDOT to do an initial study of what that north-south connection would look like. Just in terms of some preliminary numbers. They just started that like the end of last year. So at least probably 6 months before they even that first part done, so.
And I think, and you see on that future land use map that Diane was talking about here, you see they have a general corridor. That doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna follow that exact alignment, but they are around South Lecter or.
and I asked Kim, city guy that question. This is planned and it's gonna be. This is a logical. Time for that.
Yeah, they definitely know where it will start in the city, and that you're right, it's right by where Panasonic is starting now, then as to where it may veer and extend back to the east. Be determined.
Sean, just to paraphrase, so the rural policy area, frankly, makes the most sense for the property owner. It allows to slow down development as much as possible, but also at the same time gives the city more flexibility in terms of what potential, whatever, in terms of their long-term viability too, right? In a way.
How does it do that? Because if they want to annex it, somebody else annex, it's going in there.
Yeah, that's right. But I think, with the rural policy though, it seems like it gives them, there wouldn't be, the city wouldn't be as constrained with other, like with the, I think
In
it,
the rural policy area,
If
it's a
like
dual,
a 2 or 3 acre.
it's a dual thing. It's a placeholder, but it preserves
yeah,
rural character.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of a
yeah,
placeholder.
it's not a block. I mean, we know that there's going to be this street. But you know, it helps that the more urban development occur in the proper place, which is,
Well, and it goes along with the greater rural comprehensive plan. To
yeah.
maintain that rural character, so it's consistent with what the overall general plan is.
What I would say the best way to characterize it is say, I think what the rural policy here does is it discourages the type of development that could potentially be a conflict for the city.
Yeah.
So if we said urban fringe, maybe that might entice somebody to build 2 acre or 4 acre lots if they could get that zoning through. That might not be what the city, they may want even higher density or a commercial or industrial. So it just potentially creates a conflict for future city growth is
And
what
then
it could
just
be.
realistically, let's say that we adopted a plan that's the DeSoto land use. It has some commercial at that node at 95th and Hill Creek, and has some multifamily off 95th Street near Lexington Avenue. Well, if somebody comes in and puts in an application for like a gas station at that intersection, we really can't say no. And but then it's developing at our standards, which are a lot different than city standards, and then it's just, it makes it very difficult for the city to grow as we have this commercial development or residential development that is not built. It's a lot more expensive.
I just think when this is explained, masses. Chris said is, hey, that. How that's communicated is very important, Chris. I think you're right on it.
I also think, for the sake of uniformity, neatness, simplicity, that I would like to see one of the land use areas done rather than split it up, you know, and have some of them, you know, be urban fringe and some of it be rural and some of it be rural policy.
Chris,
I
either
would-
do one plan option one and just.
I think it would be easier for people to understand, and I think that it makes sense to do that unless there is a specific tract or of ground where you can parcel that out and say, no, this really needs to be urban fringe, you know.
That's right, and just kind of, I think what helps solidify that for staff was when we Soto and
Mhm.
very clear, but we would prefer all rural. To, so I think that at least for staff, okay.
Yeah.
Is we're coordinating what they're doing and
It made the most sense for them to keep it that way until such time as the city were to end.
Right.
Then they could change it
Then
to
they can do
whatever they
whatever they
want.
want.
But for the meantime, as a placeholder, they agreed that makes some as rural policy. And I think that's the way we, if the subcommittee agrees, I think that's what we would present to the public when we have the public information meeting. Show, here's what that policy area map is recommended by the committee. And here's what the plan was in 98. Here's what's recommended now. And it's primarily what we're showing is keeping it rural policy area. Taken away after we've got the annexation from DeSoto and after we've removed that, the specific land use plan, we're recommending primarily just rural policy.
And I think the landowners out there would appreciate that, you know, for. You know, if you've got a 70-year-old landowner who's got a,
That's not that old.
He didn't say it was old. He just said. it's David under the garage.
I'm just setting the stage here for your deal.
You have to,
well,
you have to,
let's put it this way, if I'm setting a trap, I'm snared in it, okay? Who's looking at, you know, bequeathing his land to his children, and they want to know what to expect and that sort of thing. And as the city moves out, grows, annexes, and that sort of thing, all of that'll change. But when I think keeping it status quo until such time as it is annexed it's good for us, and DeSoto is happy with it, and I think it makes sense.
I don't see any real advantage of presenting two. I mean, we're listening to you and they're kind of entrusting us to, if we, I don't know, if we all think that's the best, the staff thinks it's the best. Certainly do, is just make that the proposal of the board, don't you think, Chris? Just
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
I got a question. Is this a county map or city map?
That's the cities.
That's the
Okay.
city's
City,
future land. use.
yeah, it probably doesn't state that, does it very well, but.
Well, it's not on here. It probably
Oh,
doesn't on the side.
sorry.
The reason I'm wondering is we're heading towards leaving everything like it was, which disregards the color of the ink on this sheet.
Yeah, because
That
that's the
was just done
cities.
in December.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
and
city.
that's.
That's why I was
Stephanie's
really
field,
asking a while ago, are we being with what the cities have on their future land use
Yeah.
map? We're kind of going the other way, because if that node you keep referring to, it's all painted bright red. And we're saying, let's stay away.
Yeah,
from that
because
red.
if we were to be exactly the same and coordinate with the city, then it might create a problem for us, because then, like somebody was saying, somebody could come in with a gas station or something, and no, you can't do that in the county. If you want to do that, you're gonna have to annex. into
Go ahead and
the city.
annex
That's
it.
why we don't want to confuse the two.
Right.
We do have distinctly different future land use plans.
It makes us hard to, it makes it hard for county.
Well, and it kind of, this kind of also, that action you just described lines up with the philosophy the county's always had, and that's discouraging.
Yeah.
Serious zoning and
Want
development.
to have higher density development, they need to go to
In the city, if you want to do that.
Right. yeah,
That's kind of been what I've encountered anyway,
Yeah.
is that.
They
Kind of.
the
Go
big,
back
the
there.
urban and the rural.
Yeah.
And
Roger, you agree with what talked about so far that we.
I think
agree
so.
that the lesser
Yeah.
of the two evils is just what you recommended in option one. I think the option two, curbs enough things that will cause a lot of emotional argument about.
And of course,
It doesn't include the possibility that someone that would be in that transition wants to zone,
that's
they're
right.
close enough to the city that they could zone.
That's right. They
We're not
could
blocking
do,
them, we're just saying,
yes.
kind of saying the same thing.
They're encouraged to go to the city, but they would not preclude someone from coming in. For the reason, that's right.
If I want a gas station, I just go to City Hall, I don't. have problems.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
But any type of residential zoning is much more likely that could happen still in the county. And that may happen, and it may be higher density than maybe what staff would recommend, but it wouldn't prevent someone from still doing that. But if they're looking for higher density, generally, they really should be in an area where they have the infrastructure And it's in an area that would be.
Go to the city and it.
That little node's not even served by sewers.
I don't know.
That itself usually helps regulate
Not
that
as-
because that extends
Correct.
and everything's too
Probably not.
expensive to,
Correct.
unless it's a massive development.
At least it just,
Yeah, someday it will, but at this time,
They're talking
Mill
about.
Creek is kind of
Go.
generally where the break is on the sub base. Or that wastewater.
Yeah, it'd be reachable with theirs, but once they.
Yeah.
Plant, then it's gonna be
Yeah.
within reach.
Gonna open that area up and we really want them.
eventually it will.
And then that's, like everybody said, and at that point.
Just
So
to
Mike,
note,
we're gonna,
just to make one note that, just because we're putting a rural policy area over everything. Doesn't preclude some of that slightly higher density. Somebody comes in, like, a request for RN2, which is. Still have to go through that golden criteria. Look, if there's a lot of other density around it, if they have the water line from there.
It offers flexibility while promoting stability.
Yeah.
I think that's a good sentence to print.
Mhm. All right.
You can take that.
No, I'll give it.
we can say it offers flexibility, but what?
Promotes.
While promoting stability.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good way of putting it.
So Mike, we're gonna put you on the spot a
Well,
little
you have
bit.
that
So
gavel
when
in
you
your hand,
step
say it.
out, I think it was. Princess with at least the four of the members that maybe we just present to the planning commission, the option one. Which is.
I think a little dissent here would be helpful.
Well, I'll be honest with y'all. Originally, I was leaning towards the urban fringe, but after listening to the discussion today, as well as meeting with the city, I would actually fall to these, doing what everybody else is talking about.
Exactly where I was.
I mean, I literally was leaning, I didn't even put an email. I was
Yeah.
leaning towards this based on it, but with information and of course, more discussion, I think it'd be better suited to stay. Yeah, and I also agree with Chris. These are all one. Don't piece it. I think that would cause more confusion. So, no, I'm good with
I
that.
can't even explain to myself why we would do that. So,
Not in this instance, no, I can't explain. But no, I'm good with.
I tried and argued with myself.
yeah.
Don't get to argue something, don't lose the argument.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. I think, it's like we've got pretty solid recommendation
Yeah.
there. So, thank you. I think that was a good conversation and, I suspect that the full planning commission will, have.
So when do we need?
When will that go?
Yeah.
When will
So,
the planning
so,
commission
yeah,
talk about
we're gonna
it
get
next
to
week?
some of those
Okay.
details here, but, so I think next on the agenda, I think,
Informational meeting.
It's
well, Karen
information.
was gonna, no, we were gonna talk about chapter 23.
So the way that we move forward with any nation is that our chapter 2 of the comp plan has the policy area map. The big board is what is in the comprehensive plan now. So we would need to swap that big map out with, another one that shows, this is what the policy area map would look like now and chapter 2, our land use plan. So that's just a simple swap out of one map. And then our chapter 3 of the rural comprehensive it's titled area plans. So this is a great time to go through, update chapter 3 and go through and talk about how the sunflower area plan is like just a simple policy. So that'll be some text. And so there'll need to be a public hearing in front of the planning commission. Change these. And if it's okay, guys, we would like to publish for a public hearing that we're thinking. Am I getting off in your?
Well. Did you want to think about 2 chapters?
No, no. So and I'll be doing those revisions and I'm planning on having those available the next planning commission talk about the recommendation.
You're thinking of a possible hearing? April?
Yeah, so we're getting there.
Okay.
So. Here's something that we have left to talk about is kind of public involvement. Separate public. We'll go through that timeline. So, what we're thinking about is doing a separate public open house, public information meeting. Call it. It'll be separate from the public hearing meeting, which does kind of. We will do that before. So what we're thinking about for that is that staff would run that. We will probably do it somewhere in Soda, not at City Hall or in city buildings, but probably maybe at the high school or middle school. We're looking at March 21st or that meeting. And it would just be kind of an open house format, we'll have some boards up like we do here, just kind of one-on-one engagement from people watching about what the current plan is, what we're doing, what the subcommittee has done, what the recommendation is. Talk one-on-one. Well, obviously, so we capture everybody's comments so that we can put that back to.
That'd be handled just by planning staff. The subcommittee wouldn't.
And then, so.
Say that again. I'm looking on my calendar.
You don't have.
Oh,
to be
you
there.
don't have
Feel
to
like
come.
go.
You
Okay,
don't want to, but
Alright.
planning
But-
staff can.
But as committed as you are, I
we
assume
can
you'll be there.
let you
Yeah.
And so a couple of things for that. So what we did was, James put together kind of a database mailing list of landowners within the study area. So we're going to send them either a postcard or flyer to everybody. It was about.
528 or 582, 582 properties.
people on it. So we'll send them a flyer or a postcard and then house. We will put it on our webpage. We will also put it on Johnson media, so Facebook and whatever else.
All the social
Twitter,
media
all-
outlets.
all that social
We get
media.
it all updated on our website and the social media.
And then
what about TikTok?
Or next door.
Bunch of
We're
Chinese
doing
that show up.
TikTok
No,
videos.
no, God, no.
And then Terry, I know that you, early on, wanted to make sure that we were kind of outreaching to the farm community. And, just by happenstance, about a month ago, somebody walked in and said, 27th and County Line Road, so in our study area. And so I told him about that, so I have to. So hopefully he, as well as,
Just the fact that we're
You
sending out a
guys-
letter to every property
Yeah.
owner in
Oh,
the
yeah.
area.
That was
I mean,
big
that's,
You get a few.
It's everybody.
You get a few people.
so that's kind of our plan. Outreach, getting some, sense for, planning to do it. So, so as
Is it-
Karen was kind of
That in the middle of March
mentioning
Madness.
earlier. So that's
Yeah.
kind of our plan for that.
George.
So, so in terms of the next dates, um. So do you wanna try real
That's a
quick
big
here?
deal.
I mean,
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen next? So next steps is
Especially
that,
K-State's gonna be
I
going
think
this.
since we have, a consensus here, of what we wanna present to the full planning
we should
commission.
have.
So in
We
March,
should have.
so the planning commission is March 8th. So actually, the first thing in March that's gonna happen is this public information. So just
I'll
say
make it
March the 21 or 23, we'll hold the public information. And then March 28th, we'll report this back out to the full planning commission. So you'll all be there and can, you know, staff will do a report, but then we can also add to what this subcommittee.
That night, we also have, City of Overland Park will be at the planning commission. Giving an update on forward OP. That evening.
And then,
On
and
this
then,
one
so
coming up
then,
27th.
and then we
Yeah.
would move on to April 20. Which is the April plan. And so that would be when we would, if this group is okay with it now, we would publish for the actual public hearing to the amendments.
Think about public hearing.
So that'd be the public hearing of the
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
in April. And so if this group's okay with that, so we would actually have to publish because of our timeline for publishing. We would have to publish for that April public hearing in March. And so that's
Mid-March
gonna be
before the planning.
middle, yeah, so that's even gonna be before the March 2018. So is everybody okay with going ahead and publishing for that? And then, of course, if something changes in March with the planning commission, you know, we can certainly republish.
Yeah, you could always pull it, right, if we have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really locking, it's just publishing in case in March the planning says, yeah, we can do that.
You might shoot for the 21st as opposed to the 23rd. Roger has just pointed out the NCAA tournament will be on the 23rd, and that's probably about the time Kansas State plays TCU. or something
Well, that's
like
exactly why we suggested the preferred date was the 21st instead of the 23rd. That Thursday was a potential conflict for NCAA tournament. But we were just looking for a backup just in case the 21st is not.
So I've
available.
got to call
Yeah.
into Soto
that.
March.
School District on that.
That's
So,
public.
yeah,
No April
we'll
madness.
try to get 21st.
Well, there might.
There's only April sadness.
Not last
So it
year.
sounds like everybody's okay with us maybe going ahead and publishing. And so the important thing will be, you know, when we get to the March plan, we'll do a report out here with the subcommittee group. We'll also report out on public information meeting. And then depending on what the full planning commission wants to do, March, we can changes or make, think we may have drafts for chapter 2 and 3.
That's my point.
And so then if that public hearing happens, then we would go to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval in May. So that's kind of the next steps. That's the
I like the timeline.
I do too, Diana. It's actually faster than what we had originally anticipated.
it is.
Thanks.
No.
Quick
Don't talk
as
about
well.
it yet.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that way it could move on to the Board of County Commissioners in April.
Yeah.
Say that again.
We can move on to the
May.
BOCC and,
Okay.
okay, May.
Public hearing in April.
And then,
Thanks,
Right.
so.
and we'll, we'll have to talk about, I don't know, Jay, if we would do some. Like a hour study session with the BOCC before they would hear it, or if we want to. BOCC hearing. Thought about those two developers.
Maybe
I
we
think you want to invite them.
could even do like a manager's update or something.
Yeah,
for them.
definitely like that. Cause
One of
I
the
don't think a
meetings.
cow would necessarily be required, but it's some type of a heads up.
Whose district is that? Which county?
Shirley Allen
commissioner?
Brand, District 6, Shirley Allen Brand.
My backyard.
And I think Jay,
It is.
have you?
Yeah.
kind of been-
Yeah, we've kept her apprised kind of.
Yeah.
where we're at with things.
Well, I think that's good. That at least as being in her district.
So, but I think that means then, good news is probably this is our last subcommittee meeting unless things go really awry with the planning
Jim, we
commission.
did
We
it
have to
for
come
you.
back.
And it started up for you.
Seemed like that.
Well, hopefully we can,
No.
having the public information meeting, I think, coming up here on March 21st, that will be
Somewhere.
the time when we get any kind of concerns or questions in them. I think we could just bring
Yeah,
that.
see
back.
the little- Yep.
I
So
wouldn't
we're
think
at
there'd be
100
any.
this is
need to bring back for another
126.
subcommittee, but certainly we will report out on.
That's real
We're
good.
like.
Very good.
Anybody else?
That's why we see the
Michelle,
green.
have any other? Jay, Chris?
That's okay.
Breathing
Well,
fire.
Thank you.
I mean,
we really appreciate your guys' time
I don't
and
complain
help
about
with this.
Yep, thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, everybody. And thanks for arranging for the food.
Yeah.
Our
Cheers.
place,
And thanks, everybody, for.
Thanks.
and the law.